I have dogs, and they require a lot of attention sometimes, so. And it's me plus two males in the home, so it's always a lot of laundry. I'm always amazed by how much laundry is produced. It's crazy. So good morning. I did a walk and talk, and I don't expect a lot of people to watch it because those are just kind of day in the life type things. Just little ponderings and meanderings or whatever. This topic is triggering for me. You know, I have no desire to hurt myself or anyone else. Anything said here is not medical or legal advice for any such things. You should always seek the guidance of your chosen professional. And everything shared here is per the Fair Use Act of 1976 in accordance with education, research, and or criticism. So now that all that is out of the way, nobody's here yet. I feel bad. I was late. I'm sorry. This is a tough topic for me. So this channel began, it's all about sharing how... Okay, so it's all about sharing my specific journey from my life experience and things that are happening to me, but then we take them and we say, okay, is anyone else having these experiences, or is this an anomaly? And then we test them. I actually do like reality experiments. So it's not like quote unquote about me. It is, I feel like I was asked by the one who created us and made us to share these things that I was able to see happening with others, so that I was specifically asked to witness these things to others. I think to open people's eyes, maybe. Again, we all require a different teacher, and I'm not a teacher. So the way that I try to do that is just to approach it from a reasonable and a logical and even a scientific angle at first. And then if you cannot do that, or those ways are dismissed, then you can delve into the supernatural. But this is always about reality, breaking it down and kind of diagramming it and saying, okay, here's a pattern. Is this how things work here? Is this a law? Does this follow a natural law, a law of nature that was put in place, by the one who made all of this? So it's definitely, we can get kind of deep sometimes, but it is definitely about us all sharing our experiences. So one, we don't feel alone. It's about fellowship, right? It's about supporting each other and encouraging each other, because these topics, when brought up sometimes to family or, loved ones or friends or people that you've grown up with, I don't know, people don't even seem to ask anymore, why am I here? Who made me? What is my purpose? That used to be a fundamental question that people would ask themselves, and they would philosophize over it, and theorize about it in, I guess you would call it, quote unquote, the town square, as far as like Socrates and philosophers went, and Plato. Today you have people like Jordan Peterson, right? Not saying that I agree with everything he says or anything like that, but he would be someone who pontificates and theorizes and tries to bring that to others, to bring them around to being the best that they can be and operating in a functional and positive and compassionate way, right? Because sometimes we can lose these things in society. We can lose in the crowd, we can lose our compassion for our fellow man. People can become numbers, right? Especially if you work in retail or with the public or anything like that, in the service industry, and the healthcare industry especially. That's definitely a wearing industry. I know, because I was in that industry. So I believe that I was in healthcare and restaurants and banking and cell phone telecommunications. I believe all of that has led me to this point. Now, my kickoff event was like 2017, 2018, when I kind of realized, wait, I didn't just fall. People were kind of pushing me. This seems very organized. I have to put the brakes on. I'm being led, like a lamb to slaughter here, and kind of ruining myself, and allowing but it was definitely, they say they know not what they do. But I don't think that's true for everyone. Some people make the conscious decision to retaliate or bring about someone's karma, personally. And I don't believe that that's our job. I think nature takes care of that, just like nature and or God takes care of population control. I don't think we'll ever come to the point where we are truly quote unquote overpopulated. However, we have a tendency to gather in communities and you know, there's sometimes a dense population in a small area. We got to learn, I think, to spread out a little more. I think that'd be good for us too. So, I rambled for a few minutes. I try to just give a little intro. I know it's Saturday morning, so I don't really expect a lot of people to show up. So, let's jump into it. We know we've talked about Black Mirror before, and yesterday's video talked about how myself and another real small channel, a gentleman, I'm gonna try and find the video and see if it's still out there. He made a prediction and or brought a message about a warning. Me and him disagree though on spirit of the Holy Spirit of the tongues, the gift of tongues. I see that differently than most people, especially when you read the Catholic Bible. You kind of see that in a different light. But anyways, he brought about the same warning that I did. When I feel like I'm in communication with Creator, the one that made me, and I write down something in my journal, there are times that you feel like you have to bring that out to people and share it. And so it was a warning about watching what we consume, because it can then come into our lives. Being careful and mindful about what we watch and view specifically on the screen. And we know that Black Mirror is a reference to like a cell phone, which could be the same thing as an oracle or a Ouija board of old. That's one thing I feel like TIs don't fully understand. Again, this is something I was led into to get this specific cell phone from this specific company, and I don't pay for it. It's not in my name, which is actually a good thing when it comes to terms and agreements, and we're going to talk about that too, but I have to do a whole new video on that for anyone who missed the original one, because actually, you know what? We're going to talk about that with Joan is Awful, because that comes up in that episode. So all this stuff, wow, it all threads together, and it's crazy. When you can see the bigger picture at work, and you can see that there's like, what was that movie with Matt Damon? The Adjustment Bureau. That's a really good one too. When you can actually see these things happening around you, like reality operating and moving, and the Spirit of God moving amongst people, even though you can't physically see it with your eyes. And yeah, I feel like that's something we definitely need to share with each other, because people are forgetting Spirit. So we know Black Mirror itself, the term, can be a reference to a cell phone. We know a cell phone or a Black Mirror was also known as a witch's scrying mirror, to get visions of the future, right? Or you could, ask it specific things and it would show you a picture. Kind of like Snow White, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all. You know how I feel about Snow White. I love her. She is like my spirit or my alter ego. And no, I'm not being like one of the celebrities when I say that. I'm just being silly. But if I was a cartoon, that's who I would be. Because our names mean the same thing. And God will give you a new name, and I've told you before, don't share that with anyone. And again, that has to do with terms and agreements too, and we'll cover that in just a moment. So Joan is Awful is in Black Mirror, Season 6, Episode 1. We also know that we've watched Black Mirror, and the stories in Black Mirror reflect things in politics that have happened the last few years, and things in the public media, the mainstream media, I guess you would say. So we know that this phenomenon, and that post that I made in Reddit, all I got was gaslighters. Everybody saying, what are you talking about? Take your meds. It's been on mainstream news. They talked about it, and I'll put the link in here for the Dean Koontz book that started it all. But they even talk about it on MSM, about how things are, wow, did Netflix predict the Ohio train derailment? Because a movie on there had that specific plot in that same area. That's not coincidence anymore. So is this stuff happening because we're making it, because we're streaming it? Is it coming into our reality? Or is the media completely lying? If we went to these places, are these things truly and really happening? I haven't been to East Palestine, so I can't tell you specifically myself what is going on out there. But I definitely know that trains have not ran in this area. I used to love them. They would put me to sleep, and it reminded me of home, because in Pittsburgh there's a lot of trains, and I used to love listening to them as I fall asleep. But they haven't ran here since at least 2017. You can follow the tracks and whatnot, and you don't have to worry about, getting run over because they're not running. Most of our produce and all that stuff, our food, our consumables, are brought in by truckers, and especially in our area, we don't have to worry about getting cut off from like the mainland or anything, because it's a pretty, everything is close by, right? And that's a smart way to do things. If you're farming, you want to farm for or you want to grow what grows best in your area, right? So it kind of makes sense to do things that way. But anyway, I'm sorry. Netflix has had shows as well. And we have the example of Dean Koontz when the CV started all of this. The Dean Koontz book, Eyes of Darkness, had a very similar illness in that book. And it came from the same exact area that it came from here in China. So it was the same plot line, and MSM was even talking about it. So I'll put a link for that below when the video is over. So we know this is happening, but again, is this real, quote unquote real, or is everything we see on the screen lies? Is it just all lies? Is it just all actors? At this point, we see what AI can do. It can make people, basically, are the people that we watch even really there anymore? I remember when Maleficent came out and they were talking about how certain celebrities were going to start selling their images, right? And giving them the rights to use their images to do whatever they wanted. That's in Joan is Awful too. So we're going to get into all these little topics. They're all interconnected, and they all are a part of our reality. Oh, Dean Koontz also did The Whisper Room, which is all about targeting individuals in society, and we covered that yesterday. So here's another example, and this one is personal. I actually, not to be narcissistic, but I feel like every interaction that I have anymore with people, not everyone, but just about everyone. I had one this morning again where I was just like totally ignored and just given a look. I don't know what's wrong with everybody. Anyways, I feel like I'm being mocked. I used to wear my hair, I do wear my hair like this. If you actually look at my picture, I still do this in the summer. This is more extreme. When I was younger, like in my early 20s and first started doing my hair with the blonde and brown, I did the streaks like that, and it was real extreme at first, and then as you get older, you kind of learn how to blend it better, but I like the dark underneath now with the blonde on top. But yeah, it feels personal. Her name starts with a J. It's on Netflix. Netflix was one of the things, like I told you, all these things that are happening in the public, on the media, and the things that we're encountering are things that happened in my small circle. A new circle of people came around me in like 2017 and 2018, and all of these things started happening to me back then. So I've been dealing with this since, way back. It came into public awareness, I guess, in 2019 when CV started. And I know this is a weird topic, and I know not everyone is going to like relate to or understand even what I'm talking about here. But that just means it's not, you're not ready for this content yet. And we are all at different points of our journey. And I do believe those ahead should help those behind, and vice versa. I think we should be helping hands to one another and not kicking each other when we're down or pushing each other off the cliff of temptation. Excuse me, nectar of the gods here, orange juice. Nothing better to start your day with than some orange juice. Okay, so her name also starts with a J. This is something we talked about. I said, I feel like everybody I run into, I said, I've had people double take, when I'm out and about. I was like probably 20 minutes away in a nearby town, and I went into a dollar store or something to get a drink, And this man like just stared at me and did like this double take, like he recognized me from somewhere. It was strange. I was thinking back, right? I told you all this stuff came into my awareness in 2018, but I was thinking back, even when on vacation to the beach as I think I was 12 or 13 with my mom, my sister, me, and my dad, my stepdad. And we were staying in a hotel, right? And we were there for a few days, like most of the families, and it was packed, right? That was back when there was a lot of people getting out and about, and people weren't sitting in their homes, uploaded to their computers and not moving. So there was a lot of people around. And these young boys, of course, being young boys, were trying to hit on me. And they said, hey, can you come back outside after your family goes inside? And my parents, of course, said, well, yeah, just sit right there. Don't go anywhere. And that's what we did. There was chairs outside. And they knew my name. And I never told them my name. I hadn't met them. They were just like, oh, hey, we're from such and such. Where are you from? And I was like, Pittsburgh. They were like, oh, yeah, okay. And we sat down and started talking. And they said my name, like in conversation. I'm like, I never told you my name. And after that, they made like real quick excuses and like jetted. They bounced. I feel like Truman. Like the more I think about things in my life, the more instances I have like that. And it's creepy. So again, let me be very specific here. When we talk about mental illness, okay, I don't think per se, I'm not paranoid to the point where I think everything in life is about me or revolves around me, but I do think something is going on in America or in, my area and with some of you, because I've talked to you as well. I do think, we're recognizing and seeing like, wait a second, why are we being watched? Why are we being followed? What is happening here? Why do these people say back to me like my own thoughts or things that I've done in my home? It almost feels like hidden innuendos or threats when, for example, I'd send an email to somebody about eggplant. It was actually one of you guys, well, one of the people that used to watch. And we were talking about dinner or something. And I said, I like chicken parm. I said, but I try not to, eat animals anymore. And they were like, oh, you could have eggplant. And I was like, I've never had that. And that night, my spouse came home and was like, here, I got you some eggplant or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I feel like I'm being gaslit for, like all over the place. And it's not cool. Like, it's not a good feeling to have. And I haven't always felt this way, right? But I definitely do think we know that we were lied to about history. We know that they villainize people oftentimes who have done good things. And we know people who tell the truth in this place and stand up for truth, unless they have a strong support system, are often villainized and ruined. Like you've seen it in the public eye. Anytime someone starts to find God or talk about spirit or talk about, hey, repenting in some sort of way, like positive change, they take their platform away. Like Kanye, they have to make him look totally insane, right? Because he started following God. So it's just discouraging for some of us to recognize and to come to terms with the fact that, wow, life is not what I was told or taught at all. It might not matter how hard I work. I might just always deal with some type of persecution or ridicule. And I think it's unfair, when people are fighting for like medical coverage and medical rights and all these things. But then they want tolerance, but then they turn around and demean each other by saying, well, you're crazy because, you're insane. You just need to take your meds. Like, then you won't talk about these things, or then you won't talk about spirit. Nate on Lift the Veil was talking about that the other night and how he's on medication now. And I don't know, he's going through something. He's being targeted pretty hard. If you want to check out his channel, I shared a stream he did. It's called Lift the Veil. He's going through some things, but again, the orange color came up and he was actually incarcerated, and he comes back out, and now he's a little different, and the way he's talking is different, and it's in code and stuff. So yeah, there's something like really going on. And it's funny how if you look at YouTubers, some of them, especially women, become targeted, and how some of them have went missing. One girl who covered missing people, who was really passionate about it, she did a last video talking about her mental health and how looking at that stuff all the time was making her paranoid and how things were happening. I believe she was targeted, and sometimes people just don't know what's happening or how to deal with it. But if your life is micromanaged and you don't even realize it, and people around you are kind of leading you into certain things, just like I said with the cell phone and Netflix. I didn't want Netflix, but it was like pushed on me. You know what I mean? Like almost advertised to me by loved ones several times. And finally I'm like, all right, just put it on. I don't care. Put my email on it. You know, and then you're led, you know, to do certain things and manipulated in certain ways. So that's what Jonah's awful covers. It covers exactly what we've talked about and things we've said what if about, right? Like, yes, this is an extreme theory, but it gets to the point that that's how you feel. You feel like you're always being watched and like everyone knows what you're doing. Good morning. It's nice to see you. I hope you're doing well. Orange juice, sorry. It's nice to see you. I was so glad that you stopped by last night too. It's always nice to see certain people are doing well, you know, just to see them pop up is relieving. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. Cuz yeah, we're in strange times and people are just going missing, and I think that the history books are going to say that much like the Spanish flu, that's what happened with CV. But I don't think that's what's happening, unfortunately. And I don't know, like I said, how far, like I never get to talk to certain people in certain areas, right? And the people that we speak to, even if they're in other countries, they always speak English. I don't know. There's something going on weird with the internet too, because in order to micromanage people, you have to control who they talk to as well and the media that they consume. So why would, I don't know. I'm really, how do I say this? Strategically speaking, it's not a good idea for a country to put out all their personal business and air all their dirty laundry on the media, because then your enemies can see that, right? So I feel like we're also dealing with things that are being shown purposely that might not be true, but they're just being shown to make one country look weaker than the other, per se. That's just an example that I'm going with here, and I hope I'm speaking in a way that people can understand. So Joan is awful covers an average woman, right? Just like us. She's stunned to discover a global streaming platform. It looks just like Netflix. It is a Netflix show, so they're kind of like, it's art imitating life inside of art, and they're imitating their own art. I know that's weird, and it gets even deeper. Like they go down the rabbit hole even deeper with, what am I going to say here? Almost like the Fibonacci of realities, how this reality is inside of another reality is inside of another reality. And I don't want to give away too much because I want you to go and see it if you can, just because it's already out there, it's already in the public awareness, and it might be, if we're talking about it now, it might be a good idea for you to actually see how everything plays out, because it's very plausible, like it's plausible, and in the end, it ends up happening that the woman who plays her is Selma Hayek. And I think that's pretty awesome. And what's funny about that is when I was younger, I always said that if I had somebody play me in a movie, I would want it to be Selma Hayek. Because, you know, I have a darker culture, heritage, darker skinned or whatever. When I'm in the sun, when I'm not in the sun, I guess I take after my daddy's French side. But I always said that she was beautiful, you know, and she was busty like me, but she made it look good on TV, you know, and whatnot, and that I'd want her to play me. And she plays Joan, okay? So this is very weird for me to explain a show that feels like it's mocking me specifically. Like, I actually used to have that hairdo, and I still do my hair like that. I mean, you can actually kind of see it. I don't know how to... See, I have the blonde and I have the black underneath, or darker brown anyways. This is an older picture, but it's like that now. It's bizarre, to say the least. It's very, it makes you uncomfortable, right? It's kind of eerie. So, let's go through some images and see. Okay, so this is her. And she goes a little crazy because of all this happening. Now, what happens... she wants them to quit using her image, right? And she says, I never gave you the right to do this. you're copying my life. You're using my life in a television show, and I never agreed to do this. And you're using my real name and my image, and you're recording my real life every day. And they tell her, well, you should have read, and we've talked about this, they tell her you should have read the terms and conditions, because that's where it says that they can do this. The terms and conditions when you sign up for a streaming service. That's why they're doing this to her. That made it legal when she checked that little box on her computer or phone. That removes them of all liability. They cannot be sued. I'm trying to look for where she actually first sees it happening, because it shows the streaming service on TV. See there, they're looking at the television. There's the giant screen. It looks just like Netflix. It even uses the red and black. I forget what they call it. Is it strawberry streaming or something? Something weird like that. But you can tell Netflix is mocking themselves or using themselves, right? So it's a streaming service in this false reality that is Netflix. Well, what they end up finding out, and this is where it gets kind of bizarre. Should we read Vox? I don't know if I like Vox. I just want to there's IMBD. Let's just read the regular. I don't want to review per se. Okay, an average woman is stunned to discover a global streaming platform has launched a prestige TV drama adaptation of her life in which she is portrayed by Hollywood A-lister Salma Hayek. So what happens is she's sitting there watching this with her fiance as it's playing out. And at first he's denying it. He's like, no, it's just a coincidence. No, don't be so paranoid, No, that's not what's happening. And finally he's like, oh my God, it is you. Because it shows her firing somebody that day, which she did. But then it shows her cheating on him, which she did. And it shows her, texting with her ex, basically. They went to lunch or something. And so her guy leaves her. And it ruins her life. She loses her job. They don't want her there anymore, obviously. So she loses her job. And she decides that she doesn't want them using her image anymore. So she goes into a church dressed as a cheerleader and goes potty. She goes potty in the middle of a church, and she gets arrested for it. And Salma Hayek goes into the streaming service, and she's like, you can't, when I told you could use my image, because they're using Salma Hayek's image, right? She's not actually acting in the show, so she doesn't know what's being done until the show airs. They're using AI. Well, when Salma Hayek sees what's happening, she goes into the streaming service and says, I don't want you using my image to go into the middle of a Catholic church and take a dump, because I am Catholic, and that's blasphemous. You can't air this. And they're like, no, but we can, because you signed the terms and agreements. Then they find out that all of this is being generated and done through a quantum computer. So they break in, and they want to bust this quantum computer. But what they find out is their reality isn't the real reality. Salma Hayek and this version of Joan, Salma Hayek's playing Joan, and this real Joan, they're not the real Joans. They're not real people. They are just put out by the quantum, the original, because it keeps happening, right? It keeps echoing out. This one playing this one, and this one playing this one. Kind of like if you put a mirror in front of another mirror, and you just have almost like a never-ending reflection of the same thing. This is the real Joan. That's what she actually looks like in real life. Once they bust the quantum computer, real Joan and real Annie, and this is the other gal, they actually are freed then from like this thing putting out these shows and, streaming things, and they bust the quantum computer. So I took it very personal. There are actually things that she says in the episode that have come out of my mouth, not in the same context. I did not have a job like that. I did not fire people, but I did work in an area like that where it was very close knit like that. A lot of computers, a lot of cubicles, processing. You know, it was very technical. So I have worked in those environments, but I never fired anybody. Um, and some other things that she did are things that I've done. And her hair is the same as mine used to be. And ironically, now my son's girlfriend, the one that he moved out with, my youngest son, which was very surprising, his 5-year plan went out the window. The last time she came over, I told you she really resembles just a smaller version of my sister-in-law. Looks like her, sounds like her, walks like her, talks like her. Even the same color eyes. Her hair is like this now. And it wasn't. It was blonde before, and now it's blonde and brown. It's very weird when you feel like things, and it's strange because it's always been like that for me. If I like I started like teal, it's my favorite color. You started seeing it everywhere. It was all over the place. And then I was like, all right, I'm kind of seeing this everywhere. I'm kind of getting sick of it and more out of it. This keeps happening with me. It's like Groundhog Day mixed with The Truman Show. Um, and you know, you get sick of like just the gaslighter saying, oh, just take your meds. Like, seriously? I've given specific examples. I've laid out things that aren't hallucinations. They're actually happening. Like this flippin' show. And her name is Joan. Mine is Jen. It's two letters different in the middle. Like, it really feels personal. I don't know. I know that sounds weird. I know it sounds maybe self-centered or narcissistic, but I was just sat down and watched the show because I know that sometimes the way they display consciousness and like quantum computing and things like that, I know that it's happened in the past, so I wanted to see what season 6 was like. Season 6 is strange. There are certain things in the entire season that kind of echo true. So you might want to check it out. But I definitely thought we should look at this episode because it's what TIs talk about all the time. Like, we feel like we're being monitored somewhere and streamed somewhere because of how many bots and AI crap follows us around online through social media. I mean, I'm not even really on social media anymore, just YouTube. And the second I go into a live stream or something, I can make maybe 2 comments, start a conversation with somebody, and after that, it's nothing but gaslighters. Like, you know, tagging me and just talking crap to me. And it just gets old, you know? So I wanted to point this out because, again, it's another physical, literal, real-life example. It's not a hallucination. It's nobody going crazy. This is something we've all talked about, and we've all, like, we've said, what if? What if this is what's happening? Because we talked about Chip Chan, right? She thought that's what was happening with her. Like, she would broadcast on YouTube like I'm doing now. Like, I understand, like, this now is out in the public. Like, I'm doing this myself, right? I'm putting this out there. But when I hit close and I hit, you know, close the app, that's when it should end. But when we have interactions with certain people, we are given these hints that, hey, I know what you do in your private time or when you're alone or whatever. It's very strange. And now it's become blatant, right? Like, you didn't see this many examples of high strangeness and supernatural activity when we were younger. And now you're seeing it everywhere. Is it because of things we are doing? Is it because of things we are thinking? Are we believing certain things and making them real? Again, or is it all gaslighting and everything we see on the screen is manufactured? And if, like I said, if we actually say we see a news story about there being a fire in a certain area, if we drove to that area right then to confirm this, would that actually be happening? Or is it nothing but lies and negative things just to bring people down, which we've talked about as well, like the stealing of the Loosh and how Monsters Inc. Kind of tells that story about how they use the fear to produce their electricity, which I think kind of is how this place operates. But I don't think it's necessarily just fear. I think it's something that produces a high level of energy. And I don't think they care if it's positive or negative. They just want the energy. But for us, being made the way we are, and, you know, having souls and spirits, We need that light energy. We need that light, literally. We need that sun. We need the light. We need that goodness every now and again. Or we won't be nurtured. Our spirits aren't nurtured. And that's what we're seeing today is so many people are just dead into spirit. Nobody even asks anymore. Like, why am I here? What is happening? What is my purpose? Who made me? So we're going to look, after I was looking at that Joan thing and kind of like triggered by it, I saw this, read it, and I'd never heard of it before, but then I saw on YouTube that a few bigger channels are recently talking about this, and that's how you can tell YouTube even is becoming the new Hollywood. All the kids, even all the big channels, are in the club. Some of them openly say, yeah, I'm a Mason now, and they say that all the stuff on here about Masons being evil, is just lies. What was it? The Lore Lodge. That kid, he was talking about Masonry just yesterday, I think, and made a long post about it. But you see that it's becoming more franchised, right? That certain channels are connected. They talk about the same stories. They do their videos on the same things because they want that out in the public. You have to understand that. Certain people have certain stories like that, and they're covering certain things a lot because they want the public to have that in their consciousness. And we have to be smart enough and wise enough to say, okay, why is this information being given to me? What is the motivation behind this? Is this truth? Does this person care about me knowing truth? Or is their motivation money or greed or, revenge or something like that? We have to start asking these questions. We don't even ask anymore, is this person telling me the truth? People just automatically assume because they see somebody on TV and they're told that's a bad guy. They assume that's a bad guy and start castigating a person. We have to stop doing that because that's the whole point, that is to keep this friction amongst society so we never make positive change to society, right? Because it's up to us, that's why I'm not like a channel that will constantly complain about the state of things, because you can make your own corner of the world a little better, even when you're going through turmoil and struggling. That can be used to sometimes bring compassion to another human being. And we have to think of these things and maybe just take a breath and stop. And instead of responding or reacting or even replying to somebody, just thinking first. And sometimes you don't have to reply. There's no reply necessary. There's a lot of conflict these days. Now, what is happening is it coming into the public consciousness because whoever controls the media wants it in the public consciousness. Is it breaking through because of public consciousness? Are we bringing this to the surface because we're focused on it? Again, we have to ask ourselves these questions. The bigger channels or the channels that are affiliated, you will see, will cover the same stories. They are monetized. They care about certain things. But you'll also notice that they can cover almost anything and their channel won't get censored or the video won't get taken down. Matt from KOC always talked about giving consent over our phones. This is a deep topic, what that stuff. Right, it is. That's why I said I'm actually okay right now with the phone not being in my name. And I think I'm going to tell somebody else if they want Netflix still to put it in their name. I'm going to cancel that, I believe. And yeah, it's sick. Like, we have covered this, but I don't know how deep to go with it. People don't want to put down their phones. They don't consider these things. And sometimes it can feel like sometimes myself, and I'm sure others feel this way, like we're wasting our time because nobody's listening. And I know if I get just one person to maybe change the way they're functioning in their life, or to notice things that are happening to them, maybe they can improve, their own situation. It's good then if one person can be helped. But it's hard to keep at this when you feel like you're not making a difference. And it's been hard recently for me, and I don't want to hurt myself or anyone else. It's nothing like that. just the alienation mentally and spiritually from other people. I can't remember the last time I had somebody physically near me that had spirit, that had real spirit in them, that was awake and functioning, and because you can feel it, right? I used to feel certain people in my life, like in my chest, in my heart, when they were away from me or I was away from them. I wouldn't need a call or a text or anything like that. I would just feel them coming closer in my heart. And I know, a lot of people don't understand that. And people have laughed at me when I've said that before, or called me, crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. So it can be hard trying to express spiritual matters to a public that is asleep to their own spirit within. People pay no attention to it anymore. And like I said, I can't remember the last time I had a real physical person in front of me or had lunch with any. It's just been a long time, a very long time. And now I got a part-time job, which is suspicious actually, but I'm going to go through with it because obviously I need to work, right? Like, I don't like the way society functions, but I need to be able to feed my animals. And even though I'm growing things now, it doesn't always work, so I still need to feed myself. You're not alone. Keep doing God's work. What you do here matters. Sometimes it does feel like no one cares, but you speak with intelligence and cover these topics with good evidence. You make a big difference by sharing these things. Thank you, Mr. Dixon. And I wanted to reply to you yesterday. It was very nice to see you back around. I'm glad you're doing well. I really am. I didn't mean to delete the channel and disperse everybody. I didn't know that it would get rid of all of my subs, but I did want to be rid of a few trolls. And I also wanted to test the theory where my videos making reality more negative because I had covered some really dark topics. So, I wanted to experiment again with my own life, and I deleted all the content because I wanted to see if I did that, would things get a little brighter if I started sharing things and showing things and looking at things from a different perspective, and there is darkness. We have to know it's there, and we kind of have to know how the enemy operates. True. But we have to understand that we are sovereign. We have the power within us to have victory over all of our enemies, or, per se enemies. And I don't mean people, I mean spiritually speaking. And again, anyone that finds this video can still use words I say out of context and say, oh, see, she's promoting, harm. And I'm not. I'm a pacifist. I don't promote any type of violence. I'm speaking, of spiritual fighting, of mentally enduring and making your mental status strong, right? And having fortitude spiritually and mentally to keep going through this life physically, right? I hope that makes sense. So I stumbled onto the Monroe Institute when I was on Reddit. And I like to share some of these things, but this is one I'd never heard of. There's so much beauty in God's creation. It can be overwhelming, but you don't need to fight the enemies. God makes everything work out. Exactly. And I think, while we do need to know the darkness is there, like my walk and talks, if you watch the video I did today, that's what's important. That's what matters. It's not so much, we're really attached to our devices, and people, the simulation theory can get people caught up in it and not really, I think it's a good analogy, but again, people today don't understand analogies and metaphors and poetic language like that. So the youth could take the simulation theory to mean none of us are real people, none of us matter, and then, God forbid, you have a tragedy occur because you have the youth thinking that way. Do you see what I'm saying? That's why I think it's a dangerous theory. God's creation is beautiful, and God is still in control, but we are sovereign beings, and we have the power over these things, and we are actually above them in the hierarchy. God said we tread upon the serpents, right? So we need to behave like we do, and that's what I'm really trying to do now. I'm in this phase where, okay, let me make sure that I'm expressing Christ through my words and my being, but not just my words, but the tone that I use. And I've just felt really at peace lately. I've asked God to just teach me how to abide, right? How to just rest in in his peace, and knowing that I am loved and I am fearfully and wonderfully made. For me personally, the isolation is the hardest part. With my parents gone now, and my siblings, I guess they've never seen me as a real sibling. I was always their half sibling. I don't really have home to go back to at this point. So everything is new territory for me here. My kids are grown. I have a little more freedom, so to speak, with my time. I do a lot of research. I've learned how to grow things. I'm growing. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm growing. I planted some watermelon seeds, and it was just an experiment, but I planted them next to the pumpkins, and now I think there's like 3 pumpkin vines started, like sprouts, and a few watermelon, I hope. So keep praying that God is good and that Mother Earth allows these things to flourish. It'd be so awesome to be able to like hand out watermelons, things people actually eat. The pumpkins were nice, but a lot of people don't know how to process them and turn them into food these days. So anyway, I found the Monroe Institute when I was researching all of these topics and how our consciousness, perceives reality. How much of this are we creating on our own, or how much of this do we have control over? Let me preface this by saying yet again, it is never okay to try and control somebody else's free will or decision making. Now, of course, as a parent, you want to have, be a positive influence. Let's not look at our words as trying to sway anybody, right? Let's just be good influences on each other. And, we're all still going to have flaws and faults, but let's try to help refine each other. But through kindness and love and compassion. I think a lot of us have suffered so much at this point that we might be past that phase, some of us. Not everybody, and suffering's a hard topic to cover too because of how people perceive that, and we'll cover that later. So the Monroe Institute is strange. I had never heard of it before, and I really dove into, I'm really into Project Paperclip. I think that's where if it's true, I think that's where a lot of this stuff today has stemmed from. I think we were lied to about the wars and kind of what happened there. Totally. I think it's kind of obvious at this point. Nobody wants to say it, but I think it's pretty obvious. And I don't know why they would lie to 2, 3 whole generations of people, but I suspect they did. I had never heard of them, even looking into MK Ultra, Montauk. I had never heard of this one, but it's weird. They've been around, I think, since the year I was born, maybe. So the Monroe Institute, let's see. Browser not supported. Please update your browser or switch to one of the supported. Why? Is that because am I on DuckDuckGo? Just go away. Okay. Hold, please. Programs. Let's go to about. Wow, they have a store, too. That's weird. Okay, so this is their purpose at the Monroe Institute. There's their icon. This is their mission statement. The global awakening of human consciousness. So again, let me preface this by saying, just because I'm showing this doesn't mean I agree with all of it, doesn't mean I'm promoting it. We're researching together here. This is the first time I'm really looking at it too. I saw how people were talking about it, and I see that people are becoming publicly aware of it. So I do believe it's something we should look into as a group. But again, we have to be careful about what we're consuming these days and what we're accepting, receiving, and or believing. And Mr. Dixon was absolutely right about the terms and agreements. I'm going to do a short video on that, more or less just as a warning to people or an intro, and we can get into that deeper. I think we have to. I think it's relevant, but that's when you guys are ready for it, if you want to look at that. So this is what they want to do on a global scale. The global awakening of human consciousness. Our mission, helping people create more meaningful and joyful lives through the guided exploration of expanded consciousness. The Monroe Institute is the world leader. World leader, and I've never heard of it. In human consciousness exploration. Founded in the early 70s as an educational and research organization by Robert A. Monroe. Our experimental programs are offered on our main campus in Faber, Virginia, as well as 12 additional countries and online. Using specially designed binaural, and I have an opinion about binaural beats. Again, anything you look into like this, be very cautious about it, okay? Don't just start listening to things and watching things because they say it's a good idea or someone tells you it's a good idea. You have to do your due diligence and look into things, all right? Somebody told me that somebody on the channel that used to watch the channel that I've went around with on a couple of topics wanted me to look into hypnosis, regression, and binaural beats for me as a person. They wanted me to do this. I think that's very suspect. I'm very suspicious of anyone today who is promoting hypnosis as a genuine tool to do anything positive. I don't trust people right now. I don't trust people's moral compass or values system at this point. And I think there's a lot of nefarious and devious things happening. And I don't think it's conspiracy theories. I think a lot of us have put forth a lot of evidence about the psychiatric industry at this point. There's no actual medical testing for mental illness. They've went really deep into the hypnosis aspect, Eric Nosian, I believe it's called, hypnosis, in the psychiatric industry, which to me makes it very suspicious. Anyone or anything that wants to pick at your consciousness while you're basically unable to defend yourself if something were to go wrong, right? I don't think is good. So let's look at, like, for example, alien abductions. People that say, oh my gosh, they're going to help us. They're going to do all this stuff for us. First of all, let's look at this. Does anyone good enter your house without being invited, against your consent, and take you and do things to you while you're half conscious? No, that's not benevolent. That's malevolent. That's nothing good for us. Now, when I had my experience, and I did not describe it as an alien thing because I don't think that's what it is. I think it's related to the military-industrial complex. I think that's attached to the church system, to the school system. I think they're all just arms of the same octopus. I agree concerning hypnosis. Never write a blank check. Yeah. I mean, you're sitting there and they get you into this vulnerable state and you don't know this person and they're only there listening to you because you're paying them to. Doesn't that sound a little weird? You know what that sounds like to me? In the old Western movies, when the snake oil salesman would come along, they called those people charlatans. I mean, they've dressed up the psychiatric industry, but that ain't nothing but going to, like, a freaking palm reader or something. It's the same thing. People like me who actually, and not like me, I'm saying smaller channels like mine that aren't monetized, we just do this to try and share the warnings that we're seeing and hearing with people so that they can maybe make changes in their life to have a positive ripple effect, maybe. The more people that do this, the more people that do just small things and make small changes that are of a positive nature or try to have a good influence in their personal small environment, it'll ripple outward. Every one of us that does that and keeps our thoughts at a higher frequency, Christ said, keep your mind on heavenly things. Why did he say that? Because when you think of the darkness, when you think of that negative, you're bringing it up into your mind. And that can also be looked at as a form of consent. Somehow, these quote-unquote alien abductions that are happening, they can't enter your house unless you give them consent. I'll tell you that right off the bat. So at some point in time, they're gaining consent from everyone they're quote-unquote abducting. But they're doing it obviously in a devious manner, like the terms and agreements are. That's a little checkbox. Nobody ever looks at it. Everybody just clicks it. They know this. Of course, they're going to take advantage of it. It's getting you to agree to something, and we don't even know what it is because we never took the time to read the stuff. And now how many apps have we attached our name to or whatever that now we can't even go back to because we don't know where it's at, or we locked ourselves out of our account, or how many systems out there did we check that box on? Yeah, it can get very deep. So I don't promote these things. I'm looking into this because I want to know what these people are doing there. And I would actually probably be part of a study if I was asked to be, and it was actually like scientific. I'm very into dreams, all that stuff. One never knows the intent of another or the unknown. So why blindly agree? Exactly. Exactly. But the problem with certain things at this point is they're gaining consent through devious means, just like what happened to me. Dude said, "Can I come in?" I thought he was just having an issue. We'd already established that he was coming to pick up a guitar. I thought he was just out of it, and I just wanted him in and out of my house. I didn't know that saying yes when he said, "Can I come in?" was going to lead to strangeness in my life ever after that. And that's the same person that told me I was a fallen angel. I thought he was crazy. I was like, oh, okay. Dude just needs to take his guitar and go. My husband was there, but he was asleep. I explained this story before. But yeah, after that, I don't remember what happened. And I have very few instances of quote unquote lost time. Yes, there is that. And here's the thing though, and this is how I look at this, and I've already declared this like to the ether several times. Manipulated consent is not true consent, so it's void. If you are manipulated into consenting, if you weren't asked straight out in a language and a manner to which you understood, or it wasn't given to you in a written contract where you could actually sit there and read and it was big enough for you to read and understand, or if you were coerced into signing and agreeing to something that you didn't want to agree to. I didn't know, like, I was kind of pushed into getting Netflix. And I was like, whatever, fine, get it. I don't care. Like, what did I care, back then? I didn't know it was going to bring these strange events and occurrences, like, into my reality or consciousness. So what is happening? And how is it that we share the same reality, but our little bubbles are different? We're having different things happen to us. And that's because, again, we cannot say we are quote unquote gods because someone else made this place. And again, yes, I have a Christian Catholic kind of paradigm way to look at things, a hierarchical way. Noob. I don't know what noob means, but welcome. Noob. I don't know what that means. Okay. Anyways. Okay. And I don't think I can block people. Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Thanks for being here. You're just gonna sit and do that, I guess? Alright, let's get to it. So, I am noob? No, I'm not. I don't know what that means. Anyways, using specially designed binaural beat audio guided technology. Now, I'm funny about my ears. Very funny. We could talk about that some other time. I don't personally push binaural beats. I don't think they're a good thing for us. I think they can be dangerous as far as your consciousness goes and getting to like an alpha or beta state. You're very vulnerable when you're in the sleep state. That's when we are the most vulnerable, is when we are asleep. It even says that in the Bible. Lest you fall asleep. What is it? There's several verses about being asleep, not being one of the ones that falls back to sleep, and how the enemy comes and planted seeds while we were asleep, right? So there are several references to being quote unquote asleep, which means, your consciousness. We are very vulnerable when we're asleep. That is our most vulnerable state, okay? So I don't personally endorse binaural beats. I think that they, first of all, they didn't have a good effect on me personally when I listened. I think I listened to them once or twice. I did not like the physical effect they had on me. But again, I think they can get certain people into a state where they're very able to be coerced or manipulated. You're very vulnerable. Your consciousness is when it's opened up like that, especially, like I said, when you're with somebody who's basically a stranger and paid to be there and talk to you, right? So I don't promote this, but let's see what they're doing there because I'm highly interested in it. And like I said, if somebody asked me to join, if there was an actual scientific study where they were, documenting everything and you got paid for your time, maybe not a lot, but you got paid for your time, and they monitored you while you slept and things like that. If it was all recorded and in a controlled environment, I would actually probably be into doing something like that. But in the psychiatric offices, when you're alone with just one other person, maybe two, anyone else can walk in there. I told you about my experience with that, how there was somebody else in the office that day and I felt uncomfortable already, and how that was one of the 3 instances of where I lost time. Calling you an inexperienced person, no context is giving though. But yeah, I thought maybe that's what everything these days means something different, so I didn't know if noob still meant like a newbie, new at something. Um, I don't care what they call me, it doesn't matter to me. You guys know I've been at this for 4 or 5 years, and I don't get too deep with a topic. Number one, I don't do everybody's homework for them. Everybody has to do their own due diligence. I do targeted Masonic harassment. Thanks for recognizing that. It's nice when people actually say it and see it, so thank you for that. Jealous, lol. There ain't nothing to be jealous of here. Like, I'm literally not a threat to anybody. My life was ruined. I don't have the status I used to have. Um, I even said, look at everything I did for the community, and I got told, well, what have you done lately? I was like, oh, okay. No, I just thought maybe the community would have more compassion for me when I fell down or had some downtime, that maybe, I would have, a better time getting back up on my feet. But it's all been on my own. And the experience I had with a counselor locally, I would not recommend it to anybody. I would like to actually report him. I don't have any proof of what he did, though. So I don't think that would work. And I don't even know if he's still there anymore. As I've said before, this small town that I'm in does seem sometimes like a set. There are certain houses I've never seen anyone enter, come out, go in, out of, ever. So there's a lot of empty houses around here. I went to use the water fountain in the little town center the one day, and even that doesn't work. Like it's very strange sometimes. I told you about the funeral home we have up the road. You never see a funeral there. You never see anyone being laid out there. Jealousy is about the jealous. Please excuse my interruption. No, don't excuse yourself. We don't have to take that from people. It's just ridiculousness at this point. And that's the thing. If we were more organized and we had each other's backs more often, like you guys just did for me, we wouldn't have, I don't think we'd have to deal with it as much. I really don't. Once you stand up for these people, if they're real people, even if it's not a bot, once you stand up to these people online and in person, they kind of just wither after that. Like I've seen it, they just, and they kind of just, go off into the sunset. Like I never see them again. It's I have weird experiences though. I would say now they're trying to say join the tens of thousands of people who have attended our retreats. Oh wow, they have retreats in Virginia. Oh my gosh, that's actually close to me. Oh, but I don't like. See, I need to know more. And awaken your consciousness to discover a new, more compassionate perspective about yourself and others. What and who you are and why you are here. So there's Mr. Monroe. He started this facility. Born on October 30th, 1915, Bob spent his childhood in Kentucky and Indiana. Oh my gosh, after graduating Ohio State, because of course he did, in 37 with a BA in English, he worked as a writer and director at 2 Ohio radio stations, because of course he did. 2 years later, he moved to New York, because of course it's New York, and expanded his broadcasting career, producing and directing weekly radio programs, and eventually forming his own radio production company. Okay, so if he's already in the radio industry production, because back then everything was on radio. It was like how you have vlogs today and blogs today. It was all radio shows, right? You would have dinner, and then the family would sit around the radio, not the television, and they would listen to programs, mysteries, and all sorts of things were on the radio back then. That was your programming, that was your propaganda back then. I'm a girl who likes a story, so I can pretty much read anything and it doesn't have to affect me, but I can't really read anything twice, like fiction, because I won't forget it, so there's no point in me reading it again. So, of course, it was Ohio and New York. Those states come up all the time now. In 56, his production company set up a research. See, so he must have been into the back end of things, like the technical aspect. He must have really understood sound and frequency. So let's research and development division to study the effects of various sound patterns on human consciousness, which is something I'm sure the military was quite interested in, including the feasibility of learning during sleep. How many people do that? Do you think that, like, those people that say they study while they sleep, does that actually work? Like, I lucid dream. That's my thing. I love going to sleep because I feel like now sometimes my dream world is better than what's going on here. um, but I don't always remember it, so that's a bummer. But that's what I'm into. But I don't know, like, how would that affect your dreams though if you lay down and you listen, like if you listen to some people listen to, like, if they want to learn Spanish, they'll listen to their Spanish tutorial while they sleep. So does that affect your dream, or do you still dream? Or no, because you're listening to that. Because it is like that, when you're a child and as you grow, our heads might as well be empty, right? There might as well be nothing in there. And think of everything you listen in your ears and see with your eyes filling up your head and then coming back out your mouth. Whatever, garbage in, garbage out, whatever you're filling yourself up with is going to come back out. I've tried it also. I know 4 languages. I'm studying Latin now, especially like for my prayers, I say Latin rosary. And I was always into etymology, the study of the history of a word. Mrs. Watson, 4th grade, loved her to pieces. So I love words now, like that's my thing. I'm not great at numbers, but I love words. That's crazy. We should put we need to start like putting all of our gifts together and doing reality experiments together, or somehow sharing information with each other to maybe put it into, I don't know. I feel like we're supposed to share this stuff that we're doing and learning. Remember surgery. Only the memory is filed uniquely. Yes, what was that? Oh my gosh, I was just looking at that yesterday about how people store memories. That's always been interesting to me. Dreams and memories. Like I'm real into that. Which is interesting because now I'm having issues with some of that. So Monroe often used himself as a test. Wow, that's what we do. Subject for this research. Well, that's cool though. You have to be willing to, like, if you want other people to trust you, you got to do it yourself too. That's actually a good, what do they call that? An act of faith. And in 1958, he began experiencing what he described as, oh my gosh, OBE's, out-of-body experience. The term popularized by Charles T. Tart, a leader in the area of consciousness studies. These spontaneous experiences altered the course of Monroe's life and the direction of his professional efforts. What happened? Throughout the next 20 years, Monroe continued to explore, research, and teach others about practical methods, well, that's good, of attaining and using expanded consciousness. Okay. He developed a series of multi-day workshops, built a campus for education and research, and created a portfolio of binaural beat audio-guided technology. That's actually, like, this sounds kind of good. But again, binaural beats I'm very leery of. He chronicled his early explorations with a reporter's objectivity and eye for detail in a groundbreaking book, Journeys Out of the Body, which was published in 1971. So that was probably like the first book about OBEs. OBEs, out-of-body experiences. NDEs is a near-death experience, okay? In 1985, he wrote a second book titled Far Journeys, I think I read some of that, which expanded upon his personal investigations of non-physical reality. Trying to learn things asleep just makes you wake up tired. I know, like I said, like my dream time is like, my dreamscape is my world. That's where I do control everything for sure. And like, I've had beings, I think they're people, but I won't get into that right now. I've had certain individuals break into my dreams. And I don't like that. And I don't respond to that very well. I've had beings try to do that with my personal thoughts too. and I strongly dislike it, and I do not consent to that. And the only one I want to hear my thoughts is Father in heaven, or maybe the angel that carries my prayers to him. Other than that, my thoughts should remain my own, because yes, we're all works in progress, and not everybody needs to know every little thought that I have, because they're not all perfect, of course, right? But yes, what you take in becomes your thought, and a thought, an idea can become, then you speak about it, you bring it to life with words, and then after it's a word, it becomes an action. So we have to be very careful. There are documented cases of frequency causing dire harm to life. Yes, I believe that's what's happening in certain areas today. When you see a lot of violence in an area, I have Portland. I'll use Portland as an example. I would have no doubt. I would have a suspicion. I would like to know if there's any frequency testing in that area, considering how quickly that town, declined and degraded, and all the violence that was there, all the protesting in that specific place. I would be very curious to know what the frequency is there. Now, I know, people in Arkansas are on like this, like gemstones and caves and stuff. You guys are on a lot of, what is it called? Oh, geez. Is it amethyst? No, quartz. You guys are on a lot of quartz. And that can actually be very good. That can amplify positive thoughts, I believe, and positive words, positive language, ideas, thoughts, concepts. And it can echo those. I think that like amplifies, it exacerbates those good emotions. As far as the negative goes, I don't know if it probably is the same. So Far Journeys, and then in 94, he followed suit with a third book, Ultimate Journey, which explores basic truths about the meaning and purpose of life and what lies beyond the limits of our physical world. Monroe died at 95 at the age of 79. His legacy continues and has touched the lives of millions. Oh, a man always thinks about something prior to doing something, excluding reactions. Right, exactly. But I'm talking about consciously thinking, right? Not just reacting. Like, because today society has such short attention spans and short tempers with one another, and just the open hostile comments and replies and responses and attitudes. What did you say now? I forgot what I was going to say about that. Oh, fiddlesticks. Well, I was going to say something about, how your general inside frequency is too. All right, so to continue researching, the Monroe Institute works with researchers and practitioners. So what kind of practitioners? Through university and clinical collaborations. So it sounds like it's being done scientifically in a controlled environment. And that's the thing. If you're going to run an experiment, you have to control the environment. If something enters that environment that you did not consider, that's a liability. That could corrupt the entire experiment, and you have to start over again, right? So you have to have a controlled environment. Just like with Pauly Shore, what was that movie called? Biosphere? And just like an environment like that, just like with the firmament type thing. If you want to have like proper results and see how things will go in truth, you can't have any interference. And if something enters there and interferes, kind of like the snake entered the garden, well, then the whole experiment's corrupted. Yeah. Oh my gosh, and there it is again. There's that word. We looked at the word gate since Tom Hanks gave his award speech in 2018, I think it was. And Charlize Theron was standing there in that green dress and like freaked out because Tom Hanks said, "The gate is open. The gate is open." And then the world flipped upside down and everything got inverted. So we've talked about that. So then we started looking at the word gate, gates, and portals. And then we started looking at missing 411 and wondering, are there portals in the national forest? Is that why they want people out of there so much? Or do they actually want people in there to go missing? There's a few, and again, we have to remember, there's good guys, bad guys, there's all of it. And just like the gentleman said, we don't have to fight. The fight is already won. But I'm talking spiritually. In the spirit, like, we're not placed here to be complacent. God would not have given us life if we were meant to just sit on our hands and do nothing all day. What kind of creation does that, right? We're still supposed to live our lives and have joy and have love and friends and family and all connection. 4 language. I know that's crazy. Thank you. And I can't say that I totally know 4 languages. I know some French. I could get away with like needing to get somewhere or something in France if I had to. Italian, I know just like a few little phrases. But what is it? Ecclesiastical Latin I'm learning now. And it's hard. It's not easy because I have to fit it in when I can. But yeah, I love languages. If I could sit and learn languages all day, like that's my thing. Polish. That's awesome. What was the language I wanted to learn and they don't even teach it anymore. I think it might have been Latin. I was looking for like a online tutor. Was it Latin? No, because I found a couple YouTube. I don't remember. Okay, but anyway, now we see that Gateway is here. I didn't plan this, and it was also in the Titan story recently that was in the news, which I have suspicions about, but I don't really want to get into because I don't want to offend anybody. So, learn more about our research. Join us at PSI Fest. Where's that? August 11th and 12th in Charlottesville. Oh my gosh, I would love to go. Even if it's something like I don't promote, like because I'm not into the binaural stuff, I would love to go and see what they do here. Here at Monroe Institute, we seek to explore and investigate the phenomena of human consciousness. Our research division seeks to support, promote, and engage in rigorous and ethical research through the use of various methods, including cross-cultural experiential, experimental, and theoretical studies of consciousness. We welcome and encourage public involvement and feedback regarding our scientific endeavors. I would love to talk to somebody from this institute. The search for participants looking to achieve evocative and transformative altered states of consciousness, the establishment and facilitation of coordinated research efforts into the study of human consciousness using interdisciplinary understanding. It would make an epic video. What did I say? I forgot now. Because I know there's a delay in the video, so I don't always know what you guys are referring to. What would make an epic video? If you met some... I know, right? That'd be so awesome. I'm so small, though. Like, I do all this from a cell phone. I'm going to have to, like, if I do the video on Terry, I'm going to have to take notes, so I might do a face-to-face video again. I used to do them all the time, but life got hard, and everybody's on different schedules, and I don't always have what am I looking for? Privacy to go ahead. Like I said, I'm not a typical YouTuber. I'm not like a television personality or anything. That's what they're turning into now. I mean, they've got sponsorships, they've got brandings. It's not the way it used to be. I like the way YouTube used to be. Maybe I'm just getting old. Making the results of studies available to the public, which is cool. I like that. And those conducted by our non-affiliated colleagues in the field. Yeah, but we have God. Oh, yes, exactly. Providing a forum for dialogue between researchers and practitioners regarding consciousness research, the ethics of research. Good. I'm glad they mention ethics at least. Encouraging our colleagues to join us in the practice of stringent ethical research. They've said it again. All right, so if you're considering participating in one of our research studies during a retreat, oh my gosh, I would love to go. I was just talking about moving to Virginia or West Virginia. Everybody knows that. I said it. But I got gang stalked on here. Somebody started mocking me. And then the next day, our neighbors move in and they hang a West Virginia flag. I'm not even kidding. It was the next day. It wasn't even like 10 hours later. I had mentioned it to somebody in a text. Okay. Then another TI did a video on it. And I was talking to a TI in a text. This is why I think most of the people that say they're TIs, they're just saying that. They're the stalkers. Yeah, so they try to accuse us of what they are, and they say they claim to be us. Like, they're the ones being persecuted. It's not us, blah, blah, blah. I forget what they call that. Oh, projecting and mirroring. That's what that's called. So this is who we would have to talk to. I think that'd be awesome. If there's anyone kind of close, I know Michelle doesn't live super far from me. But it would be awesome to like actually meet somebody from the channel and then go do this together. Because I don't know if I'd have the courage to like go do something like this alone. Even just like the conference. List of upcoming studies. Now this is cool. Discovery. What's that? Let's see what that is. Let's learn more. This is your chance to participate. Scientifically validate expanded states of consciousness with an EEG brainwave monitoring. Oh my gosh, so that'd be cool. Because I bet residential program to book your retreat. See, why should we have to pay? They should pay us if they're doing research. But they're calling it a retreat, see? But you're going to pay them to dig into your... I don't know if I like that. To book your retreat, first purchase a program to reserve your space. 5 nights, 5 days plus 6 nights is $22.95. Are they serious? That's a lot. Minerals Discovery uses real-time EEG monitoring during out-of-body remote viewing and lucid dreaming exercises. Oh my gosh, I'd love to do this. But I don't have $2,000. No, EEG can be used for utilized for broadcast. Yeah. It's really cool as like a scientific proof though for things, you know what I mean? If that makes sense. Because you can actually guard your EEG. I'm sure they already have mine though, you know what I mean? Because wouldn't that be, now that you mention that, let me ask you this, because I'm still learning. I am a noob at some things. I'm self-taught. I'm an autodidactic person. I research all this stuff on my own. So if I get something wrong, you know, I need help out sometimes. But can EEG then... Oh, fiddlesticks. What did you say? It could be used to broadcast... Oh, is that what's used to map people's brains? Like brain map? So that they can better predict your behavior and what you're going to do in certain situations. You know what I'm talking about, right? Brain mapping? We've talked about that before. But I wonder if this is like, if that's what they utilize to do that. Assisted by SAM and HemiSync Auto Technology. Okay, look at that. That's actually trademarked. Assisted by SAM and HemiSync Audio Technology, you will enter into, look at that word, targeted, expanded states while the mind mirror. Oh my gosh, what is that? It has a trademark too. The mind mirror. Are they serious? The mind mirror. We talk about mirrors all the time. Gates, mirrors. I was led to this site for a reason, but I don't know what the reason is yet because I can't afford that retreat at all. I don't know if I'd go. I don't know if I'd want to go alone. What if I never came back? Because I have a big mouth. What if I was like, no, I don't like this. You shouldn't be doing this, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, well, don't just get rid of her. This is the only known long-term, large-scale EEG monitored size study being conducted anywhere in the world. So why don't you pay people to be a part of it? Why do we got to pay you? Participate in generating verifiable data. Discovery offers you the... I would love to see my own brainwaves, though. That'd be cool. Participate in a consciousness research study exploring. Actually see what your brainwaves are doing. You will have the opportunity to learn about your mind-body correlations and to see your physiological measurements. Consciousness connects us all, which, yeah, and I believe... Okay, I don't let words scare me. I'm not like other Christians. I think some of that is getting into like superstitious area. We can't be offended by words and symbols necessarily in and of themselves, right? It's all about how somebody's using them. If a person is suffering burn pain, for example, the EEG while in pain can be recorded, right? Then broadcast into another. Why would you broadcast it though? What does that do? I know you're saying beware, so but I need to understand the process better. What do you mean by broadcast? Like your frequency can be sent. Torture with no physical evidence. Yeah, I'm already there, so yeah. But it would be cool to actually see the proof of like what your brain does. That's the thing, you can't trust anyone with this data. If you sign a waiver or something. Yeah, let's look at that. Do they have the form? Let's look at the form. Application required. Click here to preview. Name, date, nickname, birthday. Pretty regular. Have you participated in any other training activities? TM, Silva, we're going to have to look into those. Have you listened to any HemiSync? No. What specifically motivates you? Continue to medical. I feel like 2000 you can build your own EEG device. Yes, you're right. But I understand broadcast electronically, but what does that mean? What's the point of doing that? I don't understand why you would broadcast somebody else's frequencies. I know it can be torturous for somebody else to have their frequency messed with, but what's the purpose of like mapping my brain and then broadcasting it? Like to who? For what purpose? I'm not always, I don't think like these people, so I need their motivations and stuff explained to me sometimes. I don't get it, right? I don't. History overview, collaborations, professional associations, resources, plan your visit, free meditations, helpful links, stories. Let's beware. I've talked about meditation too. Find a quiet place. Dolphin healing. Oh my gosh, do you get to listen to dolphin sounds while you... I always thought that was so cool. Dolphins are very smart. Openness, blends the rhythmic. Okay, so these are sound programs? Okay. Drives from the Hindu. Okay, so each one has, I see. That's kind of neat. Again, I've explained though, meditation isn't for everyone. This stuff is not for everyone, right? I do come from a Christ following perspective, but this stuff, obviously is very sensitive. It's the physical expression of your spirit. Your brain is, right? And your consciousness is like where your spirit resides in self, I guess is the best way I can describe it right now. We can look up the actual term, but we have to tend to it and water it and be careful with it. Like, our friend Sun, Moon, and Water was saying, we have to be mindful. For the low price of, you too can have dolphin cells implanted directly in your eardrum. Stop. Oh, that's oh my gosh, there's my thing. That's even my symbol or my background on Reddit is the spiral time, because that's how time is. It's not a line. Huh. Connecting to the present moment, central core. Well, they got a lot of them. It just never stops. And this is what bothers me, okay? And I tell you, things don't trend on their own in this place. When they want something to trend or they want it in the public consciousness, they will push it, right? They will push it out there. I want to know right now why there are so many people pushing hypnosis, simulation theory, hypnosis, and out-of-body experience. And I'm just going to say it, and I know it's going to sound weird. They want us out of our bodies. They want to use our bodies. That's why I don't believe in clones. Because we have possession. You can already, let's say the spirits of the Nephilim are real and the Bible is true. I believe the Bible, not everybody does. But let's say there are spirits out there of the Nephilim called evil spirits, and they are set to roam the earth forever beside us. They don't have bodies. They don't have bodies unless we give them permission or consent to enter our bodies, which I do not, never, now, or ever. And if I did agree to anything, I rescind and revoke that agreement. See how that works? You got to declare things out loud. Huh. This is interesting to me. I'm really curious now. I want to know why they're pushing this, and I think they seem to be pushing people to have out-of-body experiences. They literally seem to want our spirits out of our bodies. But why? You have to ask yourself why. And I told you back in 2018 when all this began, and I went to Florida and came back, and everybody was different, and they still feel different. Like I used to feel my loved ones in my heart, when they were around or close by. Or I'd say, oh, so-and-so's coming. Well, how do you know that? Did they call you? No, but I can feel them. He's coming around the corner now, like when my spouse would come home. None of that's the same. It's all gone. Everybody, I'm still showing them love. I'm still doing all the things I do as a mother. But there is no intimacy like we used to have. There is no closeness anymore. And it's been that way for years now. And it's hard. And all I could think is, wow, a spiritual rapture occurred. I didn't know what else to think. Because I woke up one morning and they were all different, and it was after some very strange things had taken place in our home and family. And all I could think is they were taken from me. Maybe the rapture is a true thing, and maybe I didn't get to go because I was doing things I should not have been doing. At that point, I had declined pretty quickly. Everything changed for me in 75, not the same. Yeah, and I don't know if this happens with everybody just awakening or if it is a change in our social society and our culture. And I do feel like something happened to a lot of people who were at a higher frequency. I don't know if they left, they ascended, what happened, but I feel like that departing from our realm brought it down. And I think some of us now were pushed to the front lines, and we have to really work together and try to keep our minds on heavenly things and try to raise the frequency collectively, you know? I think that's how the only way that this can get kicked, you know, into motion. Because I don't think these are good things, and we do have to fight them, not physically. And I don't believe in guns for myself. I've told you that. I don't think Christ would approve of all these Christians toting guns around and using his name. I think that would be very bad. So for me personally, you know, if you want to do it, that's fine. I understand for protection. If you live in an isolated area in the mountains or something, sometimes you need that protection. I'm not judging. I'm just saying for me, I don't need those in my life. I do not consent to them being in my life. I lost people to gun violence, and I have a very big suspicion about guns and travel as far as deception goes too. I think our whole world is a lie. I think I was specifically lied to about my whole background and life and who I am. Why it was done, I don't know. I don't know, but I know I've had strange occurrences my whole life, but they got a lot worse 2017, 2018. I know that my family roots, if they're correct, what I know of them, have some strange connections to people across the pond. So again, all of this started for me. It was like this perfect storm, this accumulation of stuff. People now seem unable to truthfully relate in a genuine manner. I think it's number one is because of the devices, because we're not socializing the way we used to. If you were closer to me, I would love to have coffee with you or tea. We have more bodies than souls on earth. That's a very good, concise description of what's happened, I think. Very good. I love that. And I don't like that I love that. I don't like that it's true, but it's true. And you can hear the truth in your soul. It'll ring off of you like a bell. And that's why they say, that rings true, because it will resonate off of your inner soul. And you'll say, man, I'm being lied to. These people are lying to me. And that's what happened to me. Like, God woke me up because I was in danger of losing my soul. I know I was. And God woke me up in a harsh, critical way, but that's what I needed it. I needed it. And I told God, please, whatever I have to go through is fine. Just use it to be a testimony to others. Please let it help those around me, because I love this town and I moved here and I picked this place. And you know how bad I'll feel if I move to the place where there's nothing but Luciferians, basically. I had no idea what to watch out for as a kid. I moved here at 18. I didn't know anything. But I think we're all being lied to about a lot of things. And when you talk about these things and when you try to bring truth to light, they subjugate you, especially when you're a female, and especially when they cut off all your connections, when they isolate you on purpose, which has been done to me. And people should be ashamed of themselves. And I hope shame does fall on them. Not because I want revenge or retribution, because shame helps bring people to repentance. It helps bring people back to God and having compassion for each other. I'm late here, seeing it, but you didn't start on the time you said you would start. Empty vessels, yes. Yes, that's what I call them too. I call them empties. Other people call them NPCs. I call them empties. Because like you said, there's nothing in there. Seeing you... I didn't start on time. Don't give me a hard time, Samir. It's a Saturday morning. Well, it was Saturday morning. But I know. If I start being more professional, do you think YouTube would monetize me? No, they wouldn't, because of the connections it has to my spouse and his club that he's in. I'm telling you, they're everywhere now. And I don't know. I'm not going to say they're good, they're bad. I know there's good and bad people in churches. There's good and bad people in schools. There's good and bad people in religion. I'm not even going to say there's good people in politics because I don't believe that. I don't think they're people. um, but anyways, we can look at this a little more. Samir says, it's okay. I hope you have a blessed day. It's nice seeing you. We can look at this some more. I can't believe it's so much. Like, I think that's crazy. Let's check out their store. That's a lot of money. Can you at least like show the retreat and the, or you know what it looks like, the facilities look like? Open the gates, oh my gosh, into a garden of personal light and healing with these Monroe Sound Science. Oh, they're downloads. Strengthen awareness and acuity. Spindrift is a free flow of music meditation. Oh my gosh. So they're all music, sort of. Guided meditation. CD and download. Abundance. There's the prosperity. Abundance waterfall. Oh my gosh. Across the Great Pond. Huh. Adventures in synaptic exploration. A musical journey to ancient sources of intelligence and guidance. With Hemi Sync. Okay, what was the other thing that we saw? Hemi Sync and the other... Because I want to look those things up. And now I don't know where they went. Angel Paradise. Angelic Heart Music. See, you can get any of this stuff, kind of. You can look it up right online. On YouTube. So their store basically is just, okay, there's a book. I am more than my physical body. We sure are. By location. See, that would be dope. So there are some saints in history that were able to bilocate, meaning they were their body was in one place, but somebody would pray or they knew somebody needed them, so their spirit would go and be with, somebody else in another place, and they would be in two places at one time, which they say is not possible, but they always say it's not physically possible. No, it's not physically possible. It's quantum physically possible, spiritually possible. Quantum physics is just the physical expression of spirit, I believe. Have you considered hijacked vessels and witchcraft and entertainment? One that jumps around certain people and been for decades. Faye Dunaway, Michelle Phillips. I'll say this in response to that question. That's a good question, actually. Let me read it again, because, oh, shoot. Have you considered empty... Okay. I have spoken with people who look different on the outside, right? And I don't mean at the same time. I mean at different instances. I have spoken with different people who I believe had the same spirit in them, the same thing that likes to harass me. This thing, it follows me around. It has my whole life. And I've done like rescinding, revocations. I've done cleansings. I've prayed the rose. I do all the things you're supposed to do. But I also have my angel. So are we just always going to have that other thing? I don't know. I don't know how that works. But that was a good question. And yes, I actually do believe there's more than one thing happening. Absolutely. I have seen people who look like family and friends on the outside act in totally different manners. So I've told you that. They just aren't themselves, or not the way they used to be. And they all seem to fall to a script. There are certain topics they will not talk about. They just ignore you like you didn't even say anything. To quote Scott Hensler, there is no distance in the spiritual world. Right. There's more, too. Michelle Pfeiffer, Zena Levy. I don't know if it's bloodline or a reinvention of one vessel or what. The LeVay girl also looks like Taylor Swift. Like a lot. A lot. And I don't, again, this AI stuff has been around so long. I even looked at, though, the possibility of skinwalkers. Because and I hate saying the word, sorry, I take it back, whatever. Angels, the other word I just said, they all can shapeshift. Angels can shapeshift, or, however that actually happens, if they have to ask somebody to borrow a vessel, or if they create their own and they just change it. I think both. I think there's more than one thing happening here. But I agree. Have you seen the movie Priest? I have. Maybe I should watch that one again. I actually liked it. I watch all those horror movies. My mom owned video stores when I was a kid, so that's why I try to use movies as examples, so that we, because everybody disagrees on religion and politics and, all these big things, but I figure everybody knows pop culture, So maybe if we talk about these experiences as they relate to movies and pop culture, maybe it would be easier for people to talk about and understand and comprehend. Why did that disappear? Oh, why did it do that? I'm sorry, I didn't see your comment. My YouTube likes to give me a hard time, especially on a phone. There was something else. What was the other thing we saw? Register your cart, engage, blog, join a group. Now, if that's free, I might, just to check it out. Plan your visit, contact, programs. Programs for returning students. About, plan your visit, our locations, our people, careers. I want to work, that'd be awesome. Just to like be a fly on the wall and see what they're doing. But I imagine if you work here too, that you're probably under surveillance all the time. Like, if you're studying stuff like this openly, you're probably under surveillance. I'm not trying to be mean. I think that's how it works. Why didn't you show me? Not returning students. What about just programs? Programs for beginners. Okay. Now these are 2 weeks. Experience a profound exploration of human consciousness based on Consciousness Introduction, $79. 3 weeks, $349. This is just a racket. Like, seriously. Why is it so expensive? Integrate deep spiritual experience in every authentic. $725. It's a virtual program. Do you know what I mean? You don't even go there. Wow, that's crazy talk. Find new ways to navigate and communicate difficult emotions. Become more assertive without seeming egotistical or selfish. Learn how to express your true self instead of becoming easily angered or aggressive. You will learn the workshop with a felt sense of how to honor yourself and others in the communication situation. As we explore influence versus manipulation, cultural hypnosis, understanding how we are conditioned. That's actually a good lesson. How to ask better questions, which I just said earlier. Clarity and elegance in communication, powerful ways of using language to overcome judgment. Yes, I think that especially today, people are too quick to like jump to being aggressive because they don't know how to effectively communicate with each other. Just like Sun, Moon, and Water said earlier. Law of resonance, you get what you focus on. And again, this is why I'm trying to focus more on, let's look at all of these in a positive perspective, okay? Other people might use them with evil intent, but let's look at things. How can we use this to better ourselves? How can we use even this negative targeting situation to better ourselves? That's why I'm trying to have people focus on solutions. Because if you're focusing on your problems, you're going to get more problems. And you're going to be depressed all the time. That's why I don't personally like the idea of psychiatrists anyway. You go there and tell them all your problems. They're a stranger. They're only there because you're paying them. At least a priest has to promise confidentiality. The psychiatrists and doctors don't even do that anymore. I mean, they're supposed to, but they don't. They share it amongst themselves. Wow, this is crazy to me. Like, that's nonverbal communication, live relaxation, energy connection, ability to communicate. So what do? Connection Virtual Retreat is a 2.5-day real-time interactive online retreat. Begins at 3 with an overview, introduction, logistics, and an audio exercise. The day ends at 6. So that's 3 hours. Day 2 and 3 begin at 10. Oh, wow, they end at 6. But they have lunch. Each day is different. Sammy is snoring. I'm sorry. Wow. The program we conducted using Zoom. See, there's something about Zoom, too. Something's going on with that I really don't like. I watched a B movie on Tubi, and it was about people being quarantined under isolation and how some invisible thing kept messing with them in their houses, moving things around, much like TI's talk about, right? You know what it ended up being? And I've told this story before. I did the video, do not go off into the woods alone right now. And I told you if you do, what rules to follow, right? Not to be one of them girls or people in Friday the 13th that gets whacked. There are rules to follow when you're out there, and that's why that movie is the way it is, right? Everything they do gets them ended, right? So to avoid that, you don't do the things that they were doing that got them ended, like drug, sex, and rock and roll in Friday the 13th. The only ones that ever get away are the good girls. You know what I mean. But yes, there are certain rules you have to follow. But anyway, it ended up being this couple would talk through Zoom because he was in quarantine and she was on a movie set or something somewhere else. And they were both like sharing this phenomenon that kept happening to them in the locations where they were at. And it ended up killing him. I can't remember exactly how it happened, if it was fear, like what he looked like or anything like that. I don't remember exactly, but it ended up being like an invisible Sasquatch. And I've told you guys about that over and over and over again. We've talked about these cloaking technologies and whatnot, and if they're real or just hyperbole and all that stuff. And I've showed you the YouTube channel where they're using that material now to build sheds out in the wood for people. Sheds that are kind of like mirrors. Like you can't see anything that's there. Like it's a wall, but all it's going to show you back is more trees, right? It's kind of like a mirror, but it's not shiny like a mirror. I don't know how to explain it. You'd have to go watch the video. But I've showed you all that stuff before on how it would be real easy as well in the forest to pretend to be something like Bigfoot. So again, we look at all these things from like a practical, physical, experimental, scientific angle, but then we also look at them, okay, this could be happening. People could be messing with this. People could be changing the outcome of this experiment, right? Or is it truly happening in the spirit? Is this the spirit working? And that's why you kind of need a controlled environment, much like Truman. They couldn't have strangers just walk in that town who weren't in on the secret, because they would have busted it. Plus, everybody knew him except for him. So he was a star and he didn't even know it, which I don't think is cool either. Like, they were making a lot of money off of a person's life experiences that they thought were real. I don't know. I really feel like Truman lately, and it's not a good feeling. Okay, so yeah, I think this is definitely overpriced. I wouldn't personally do this. I do not promote binaural beats myself, especially because of the problems I have had with my ears. And I've listened to them once or twice, and they gave me a headache. I do not care for them. There are other ways to meditate. You're not supposed to empty your mind. You're supposed to focus on a single thought or question that you have for God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, source. I meditate after I pray. You know, meditation is when you listen for an answer. And that's kind of what I do, because that's how a conversation works. It goes both ways. All right, so I ran off at the mouth long enough about this, but I'm going to look back into... I wanted to see the about... There it is. I want to look into these two things that we saw, the Hemi sink and the company, the trademarked company that we saw down here. So I'm going to look into this a little bit more, and maybe I'll do another video on it. I don't know. I'm not really into the binaural beats, but I love that people are looking into this in a controlled, scientific manner. It looks good on the surface, right? Now, again, I don't know personally, but it's very expensive, so I definitely wouldn't participate, but I am glad that people are doing things like this. And I do think it's a study. You should pay the person to be there. They're taking time out of their life to give you the data, right? So I think it's backwards, but that's just my personal opinion. I'm going to go now. I do think it would be awesome to do a video with an interview with somebody from here, because I would just like to know more about the consciousness area. But we're going to look more into that, because that affects everything too. Are these things happening to us because of what we're watching, because of what we're agreeing to, or because of what we're thinking? Are we actually bringing them to life? What do you think? I want to know what you guys think. All right, I got a few things to do, because I start that new little part-time job Monday. Please pray for me. I pray for you guys all the time. I'm so glad I saw a few of you here and got to talk with you. It's always nice to know. I don't know for sure who's using your device, but it's nice to see that you're apparently well and still getting around. So shoot me a message. You guys have my email if you need to talk, and more soon. Stay blessed, stay aware, And by all means, if you have short stories to share, please do shoot me an email. And I'd love to read your story or share it if you'd like, or anonymously share it too. All right, guys, have a blessed day. And I'm going to try and get some notes together on Terry and do a video about that, because he got a lot of the same worded warnings that I got. When I asked God for a word, for example, when I ask God for a word to give to people, because sometimes I'll ask, I just know people need encouragement. He'll literally give me one word, and then I expand on that word. It's not always like that, but sometimes it is. God's funny with me like that. God has a sense of humor, and I appreciate it. I really do. But we got the same words regarding, elections. I even did the video on areas to avoid, like Michigan, Florida, Texas. I told you guys, there's something going on in these places. I wouldn't recommend going to them. New York, LA. And then we saw what happened with those giant boats that docked in New York, and everybody forgot about that too. But yeah, everything that we've been getting, these messages and stuff, it's not singular. It's not, these are not anomalies. I'm not an anomalous case. There's other people out there like me who are receiving, or at least open to receiving, helpful information to help us move forward as a society. What do we need to do together to make this more harmonious and enjoyable for everybody? Because I do think people work their lives away. I think that we are away from our loved ones too much. But I also think now maybe it is time for people to, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say reintegrate or relocate, but maybe it's time for people to mingle more. I mean, if we have all these empty vessels, if something did happen per se, if some souls did ascend, maybe it's time for us to gather in different groups. Maybe we should make our own families at this point. I'm just saying. I love you guys. Have a blessed day. By all means, share your stories. If you understand the verbiage I use, please consider giving the video a thumbs up. That lets me know that you're understanding and relating to the information I'm bringing. I'm not always as eloquent as I should be. It was early today, and they fixed the air conditioner yesterday. That's why they were here all night. But now it's freezing. I'm like shivering, so I gotta go mess with a few things. But I love you guys. Have a blessed day. Please share your stories, and maybe shoot up a prayer for me as I pray for you too. Bye.